I knew something was off the moment my phone buzzed at 11:42 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone to text me, especially not her. My roommate's older sister, Lila, barely ever spoke to me. She was one of those people who walked into a room and made the air change. Confident, quiet, hard to read. The kind of person you noticed even when you pretended not to. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Maybe she meant to text my roommate. Maybe she sent it to me by accident. I stared at the message so long the screen dimmed, like even my phone was questioning why I was the one staring back at it. I was sitting on the couch in our tiny apartment living room, half asleep, half watching some random show. My roommate, Jake, wasn't even home. He had told me he was crashing at a friend's place after a long shift, which somehow made the message feel even stranger. Why would his sister be in our place at this hour? And why would she want me to come upstairs without knocking? I tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was some kind of prank. Maybe Jake grabbed her phone and thought it'd be hilarious to mess with me. But Jake's pranks were always loud, stupid, obvious. This wasn't loud. This felt intentional. I typed back, "Did you mean to send this to me?" But before I could hit send, the 3 dots appeared. She was already typing. "Just come up." That was it. No explanation. No correction. No emoji to soften it. My stomach tightened. I didn't know Lila well, but I knew one thing. She never wasted words. If she sent something, she meant it. Still, the whole thing made zero sense. The last time she visited, she barely said more than a polite, "Hey," before disappearing into Jake's room to wait for him. We weren't close. We weren't even acquaintances. We existed in the same air for a few minutes at a time, and that was the full extent of our relationship. I put my phone down and stood up slowly, trying to convince myself I wasn't overthinking. But the silence in the apartment made every sound feel louder. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the floor, even my own breathing. It felt like the universe was holding its breath, waiting to see what I'd do next. Maybe she needed help with something. Maybe something happened. Maybe my phone buzzed again. This time the message was shorter, sharper, almost urgent. "Hurry." My heart started pounding. Whatever was going on, she clearly didn't want me questioning it. And the worst part? A tiny part of me actually wanted to know. Curiosity has a way of pulling you forward even when your brain tells you to stay put. So I grabbed my hoodie, stepped toward the stairs, and placed my foot on the first step, only to hear something upstairs that made me stop cold. Something I couldn't explain, and something that made her message make a whole lot less sense. Here's the safe, suspense-driven continuation with emotional depth, character background, and unresolved tension. I stood frozen on that first step, listening, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. It wasn't loud. If anything, it was too soft, like someone moving carefully, deliberately, right above me. But the quietness made it worse. It felt like the kind of sound someone didn't want to make. And suddenly, all I could think about was how strange my relationship with Lila really was, or wasn't. The truth was, before that night, she was more of a feeling than a person in my world. Someone I saw in passing, someone who carried herself with a calm that made everyone else seem noisy. She was 3 years older than Jake, and completely different from him. Where he was chaotic and loud, she was the type who observed a room before stepping into it. She always looked like she was thinking 10 seconds ahead of everyone else. The first time I met her, I was moving into the apartment with Jake. She was sitting on the floor helping him build a bookshelf. She gave me this quick, polite smile, one that didn't give anything away, and said, "You must be the new roommate." I remember nodding like an idiot, trying not to trip over my own boxes. Something about her presence made me feel like I was being evaluated, not in a judging way, but in a way that made me straighten up a little. I barely spoke to her that day because I didn't know where I fit. She wasn't unfriendly. She was just private. Someone who kept her cards close. Over the next few months, she visited every now and then, never long, never late. She'd drop off something Jake forgot, or borrow something, or stay for a quick dinner. Every time, she'd give me that same unreadable smile, like she was quietly acknowledging I existed without really inviting me into her orbit. So no, we weren't close. Not even remotely. Which is why her being upstairs in our apartment alone, while Jake was gone, was weird enough. But texting me, at almost midnight, telling me not to knock, that's what made it feel wrong. Still, I couldn't ignore the possibility that something happened. Jake once mentioned that Lila didn't always handle stress well. He never explained what that meant, but he said it with this heaviness in his voice, like her struggles weren't something he joked about. A part of me wondered if tonight was related to that. Maybe she came to talk to him and found out he wasn't home. Maybe she didn't know who else to reach out to. But if she needed help, why the secrecy? Why the rushed hurry? And then there was the sound I'd heard, so soft I could have dismissed it if my nerves weren't already on edge. It wasn't crying. It wasn't footsteps. It wasn't anything I could neatly label. It was more like movement, shifting weight, something being dragged lightly across the floor. The kind of sound that didn't match the image of the calm person I thought I knew. I took another step up the stairs, heart thudding, trying to convince myself that the only way to know what was going on was to just see for myself. But halfway up, my phone lit up again. Another message. Short, unmistakably serious. Whatever you do, don't make a sound. Before I could decide whether to keep going, another sound followed, and this one felt impossible to ignore. I stared at the message so long my vision blurred. Don't make a sound. That was the kind of warning people sent when something was genuinely wrong, not when someone needed help moving furniture or wanted to talk privately. My pulse hammered as I climbed another step, trying to stay quiet even though I didn't fully understand why. The air felt heavier the higher I went, like the whole apartment had shifted into some unfamiliar version of itself. The soft noise I'd heard earlier had stopped, but that only made the silence sharper, thicker, like it was waiting for something. I swallowed hard, trying to piece things together, but nothing fit. Why would Lila come here alone? Why message me, someone she barely spoke to, instead of calling Jake? And if she was scared of something, why wasn't she leaving the apartment instead of making me come to her? None of it made sense, and the more I thought about it, the more my chest tightened. Another step, then another. The wood creaked under my weight, and I froze instantly. It wasn't loud, but it echoed in my head like I'd just set off a trap. No movement upstairs. No voice calling my name. Just silence. I reached the top of the staircase and stopped. The hallway light was off, but there was a thin strip of warm light spilling out from under Jake's bedroom door. The place where she'd always wait for him. The place she was supposedly sitting right now. But something about that light felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. Almost staged. My phone buzzed again in my hand, startling me so badly I almost dropped it. I checked the screen, expecting more instructions from her. But it wasn't Lila. It was Jake. Hey man. Random question. Lila wasn't planning on stopping by tonight, was she? My breath caught. I stared at the text, rereading it over and over as every thought in my mind came unhinged at once. If he didn't know she was here, then why was she here? And why did she sound so certain, so urgent, in the messages she sent me? My fingers shook as I typed back. She's upstairs. She texted me. Before I could hit send, the soft sound returned, louder this time. But it wasn't coming from Jake's room. It was coming from right behind me. I turned slowly, every hair on my body rising, just as something moved in the darkness at the bottom of the stairs. The shape at the bottom of the stairs wasn't clear, just a shadow shifting where no shadow should have been. For a second, I couldn't even breathe. My brain kept trying to explain it away. Maybe the streetlight outside was moving. Maybe the AC kicked on. Maybe I was imagining things because of the texts in the darkness. But then it moved again. Not drifting. Not flickering. But stepping. Deliberate. Slow. Too controlled to be an accident. My instinct screamed at me to back away, to bolt into the nearest room, to do anything except stand there like a target. But I couldn't move. My legs felt anchored to the floor, frozen between going forward toward Lila or backward toward the unknown shape below. My phone vibrated in my hand again. Another message from Jake. Dude? Everything okay? I didn't answer. I couldn't even look away from the dark silhouette on the stairs. It wasn't big, human-sized, but not towering. Someone standing still in a place they shouldn't be. And the worst part wasn't the shape itself. It was the fact that it wasn't coming up the stairs. It wasn't running toward me. It wasn't trying to hide. It was just watching, waiting, like it wanted me to make the next move. My heart thudded against my ribs so hard it hurt. The only light around me came from the sliver under Jake's bedroom door behind me, and that made the hallway feel even narrower, like I was trapped between something known and something very much unknown. I forced myself to take one shaky step backward. The shadow didn't react. Not a twitch. Not a shift. Nothing. Silence swelled so thick I could almost feel it pressing against my ears. Then, from behind me, my phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a text. It was a voicemail alert. From Lila. My stomach dropped. She hadn't sent a voicemail at any point tonight. I didn't even realize she tried calling. My thumb hovered over the play button, knowing whatever she said would either explain everything or make things worse. I tapped it. Her voice was barely above a whisper, shaky in a way I'd never heard before. Listen, if you're in the apartment, don't come upstairs. And don't trust. The message cut off. Just ended. Mid-sentence. Mid-warning. My throat tightened, fear crawling up my spine like ice water. She wasn't saying, don't knock, because she wanted privacy. She wasn't saying, hurry, because she needed me. She was warning me about something in the apartment. Something she didn't finish naming. I looked back toward the stairs, but the shadow was gone. Completely vanished. Not up the stairs. Not down them. Just gone. The sudden emptiness was somehow worse than seeing it. I stumbled backward toward Jake's room, the only lit place in the entire hallway. My hand shook as I reached for the doorknob, not to go in, but just to steady myself. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, drowning out every other sound. Then, from the other side of the door, something gently clicked. A soft, mechanical shift, like someone inside was unlocking it or locking it. I stepped back instantly, breath catching in my throat. Because Jake's room, the one where Lila was supposed to be, suddenly went dark. The light under Jake's door vanished like someone had pinched it out with their fingers. 1 second it was there, my only anchor in the dark, and the next, the hallway dropped into pitch black. My breath hitched, because I hadn't heard footsteps. I hadn't heard movement at all. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message from Lila. But this one wasn't typed. It was a photo. My hands trembled as I opened it, expecting something, anything, that would finally make sense. Instead, my stomach plunged. It was a picture of me, standing exactly where I was now, in the hallway, taken from inside Jake's room. But the timestamp was from 20 minutes before she ever texted me. My blood ran cold. Someone had been watching me long before I even climbed the stairs. Before the first noise. Before the first message. Before I even knew anything was wrong. And just as that realization hit me like a punch, another notification popped up. Same number. Same sender. But this message wasn't from Lila. You shouldn't have come here. Then, from behind Jake's door, someone whispered my name. The voice on the other side of the door wasn't loud. It wasn't threatening. It was worse than that. It was calm. Familiar. Almost gentle, like whoever was inside had been waiting for the perfect moment to speak. I stumbled back, gripping my phone so tightly my fingers ached. Every instinct told me to run, to get out, to put as much distance between me and that door as possible. But something held me in place. Not courage, not curiosity, something colder. The feeling that if I turned my back, whoever was in that room would open the door and follow. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Same number. I hesitated before reading it, bracing myself. Look at the photo again. My hand shook as I swiped back to the picture. I'd been so focused on seeing myself in the hallway that I hadn't studied anything else. But now, with the hallway around me drowning in near black, I noticed something I'd missed completely. In the corner of the photo, barely visible, was a sliver of a reflection. The edge of the mirror inside Jake's room. And in that reflection, someone was standing behind me. Not touching me. Not approaching me. Just standing there in the photo's past, watching. But when I spun around in the present moment, forcing myself to look, no one was there. My breath came sharp and uneven. My mind scrambled to make sense of it, to latch onto anything rational. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe the reflection was distorted. Maybe. Then the doorknob turned. Slow. Controlled. Deliberate. I pressed myself against the opposite wall, heart pounding so violently I felt it in my teeth. The door cracked open, just an inch, and a sliver of light spilled out again. This time from what looked like a phone screen inside the room. And then I saw her. Lila. Except, not how she should have been. She looked exhausted, shaken, like she'd been crying. Her eyes locked with mine instantly, and she mouthed something without sound. 2 words. Not me. Before I could process it, a hand shot out from behind her, pulling her back into the room. The door slammed shut so fast the sound rattled the walls. I lunged forward on instinct, grabbing the doorknob, but it wouldn't turn. Not stuck. Not jammed. Held. Someone on the inside was holding it shut. Lila, I shouted, voice cracking. Lila, let go of her. Who's in there? No answer. Just the faintest shuffle of feet. Then my phone vibrated again, hard enough that I flinched. A final message. Not from Lila. Not from Jake. From the same unknown sender as before. If you want to know the truth, come inside. And before I could react, the lock on the door clicked open. I didn't open the door right away. For a long moment, I just stood there with my hand hovering over the knob, feeling my heartbeat thudding through my palm. Whatever waited on the other side, whoever had been texting me, watching me, pulling all of this into motion, it felt like the kind of truth you couldn't unknow once you faced it. But Lila was in there, scared, pulled away from the door by someone I still hadn't seen. So I took a breath that felt too small for my lungs and pushed the door open. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of a phone screen lying face up on the bed. Lila sat on the floor, her back against the dresser, breathing hard but unharmed. She looked up as soon as I stepped in. "Close it," she whispered. I did. And for the first time since the night started, the apartment fell still. No footsteps, no shadows, no whispers. Just the two of us in a silence thick enough to make my skin prickle. "What's going on?" I asked. My voice sounded small, even to me. Lila pulled her knees to her chest. "I tried warning you," she said quietly. "But it happened faster than I expected." "What did?" She reached for the phone on the bed, the one still glowing. "Those messages you got? The photo? The voice calling your name?" She shook her head. "None of that was me." My stomach tightened. "Then who?" She interrupted softly. "Not who." "What?" I didn't understand until she lifted the phone and showed me the screen. A group chat. 3 participants. Me, Lila, and a third contact, with my number and my name. A perfect clone. "I noticed it earlier tonight," she said. "Someone, or something, was copying our messages, repeating things we said days ago. Then it started sending new ones. I thought it was just a spoof at first, until I got a photo of myself. In this apartment. Taken when I wasn't here." Her voice cracked, not out of fear, but exhaustion. The kind that comes when you stop pretending everything is fine. "Whoever's been doing this, they've been watching both of us longer than we realized." I sank to the floor beside her, trying to take it in. The shadow on the stairs. The photo from inside the room. The voice whispering my name. None of it had ever shown a face. Just presence. Just mimicry. Like it wanted to be someone. Anyone. Lila rested her head against the dresser. "But tonight," she said, "it messed up. It wanted you upstairs so it could separate us. I think it expected you to open the door alone." That final puzzle piece clicked into place. The messages. The timing. The photo of me before anything had even happened. It wasn't leading me to danger. It was waiting for me to be isolated enough to replace. When I didn't respond, she nudged me gently. "Look," she said, her voice softening. "Whatever it was, it's gone for now. Vanished the second you stepped in here. Maybe it needed you alone in the dark hallway to finish what it started." A chill ran down my spine. "But you didn't give it that chance," she added. "You came in here instead." Her eyes met mine, tired but grateful. "Thank you." We stayed in the room until Jake came home. We told him everything. Well, everything that didn't sound impossible. And by morning, with sunlight finally cutting through the fear, the apartment felt normal again. Almost peaceful. Still, sometimes, when I scroll through my phone at night, I catch myself checking my contacts. Making sure there's only one number with my name. Making sure nothing has duplicated itself again. So far, nothing has. But every now and then, I get a chill for no reason. Like someone is standing behind me. Close enough to breathe the same air. And every night since then, I sleep with my phone face down, not because I'm scared, but because I'm still waiting to see if it messages me back.